Welcome back to the best division in football with your boys Awthentik and The Beard, the best television show not on TV. We got some exciting games here in Week 16 of the NFC East. The Bucs are traveling to Dallas to take on the Dallas Cowboys. Huge, I'm talking about huge NFC East matchup between the Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles. Michael Penix Jr., man, are we excited about this one. Michael Penix Jr. will be taking over for Kirk Cousins as the starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons going up against the New York Giants. They're going to be at home for that game. And tonight, we got Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos taking on Justin Herbert and the Chargers. It should be a really interesting Week 16, so let's get right to it so we can get all of this squeezed into this small window before we get to Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. So let's bring in the best co-host in the country, the left side to the strong side duo, my brother from another mother. I see him backstage with the mean, angry mug, and the beat got him feeling some kind of way right now. The Beard is in the building, y'all. What's poppin', dog?
I mean, I feel like 16's about to pop right now.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those vibes right here. Like
here.
Benny the Butcher, if you're listening right now. RJ Payne, if you're listening right now. I'm just saying this might be one of them ones.
I mean, this is a banger. It's nasty. It's dirty. It's crazy. It's just what we needed to talk about some Week 16 football here. I'm amped, man. I'm like, football is running through my veins right now. Like,
yeah, man.
You know, because I got a big weekend. You know, tomorrow night, all eyes are on the Irish. They dropped their hype video today to
You feeling good about that?
Oh my God. They dropped a hype video to Jeezy. Like, if you ain't seen it, check my Twitter. I reposted it. It's been crazy, man. It's been crazy. Like, so, and then obviously a lot of talk, Philly and Washington this week, and then been a lot of talk about the stadium and all that stuff. So it's been a wild week of football, and I'm just excited. And we got games tonight. We got games on Saturday. We got the Sunday game. So it's a lot to digest over the next couple of days. Let me ask you a quick question real fast. Mm-hmm. Yes or no? Am I an old head in like internet, like debating like terminology? Would I be considered an old head? Am I an old head now?
I would say no, because to me, an old head is an old person that offers zero knowledge.
Okay.
An OG, on the other hand, now is somebody that offers some additional knowledge, something you can gain from. So when I hear old head, I honestly think about somebody that's washed. So I can't sit up here and say the Beard is an old head. Absolutely not.
Because I opened a can of worms last night, and my Twitter notifications will not stop for the last like 16 hours.
Oh, what was the can of worms?
It was I've said that I could not put Steph Curry over Magic Johnson as my number one point guard in NBA history.
All right, guys, it looks like I'm going to be doing this show by myself for the rest of the day here, y'all.
They've been coming for me.
Yeah, that's kind of wild. I mean, Magic, great player in his own right, but I mean, Steph Curry just completely, he changed the way that people look at the game of basketball. And not to say that Magic Johnson didn't do that. I just think that Steph Curry did it on a whole nother level. I've had a couple of Steph Curry debates, but I don't watch as much basketball these days. I really don't watch no basketball these days. I'm really strictly football, no baseball, no hockey, no none of that. I'm just strictly football.
Yeah, they made it seem like I was watching NBA on tape delay that old. So
yeah, you in that particular instance, you had yourself looking like an old head.
That's why I asked the question first, to give myself a little bit of credibility.
Yeah, right. So I can hype you up like, nah, this ain't no old head, man. You know what I mean? But yeah, you definitely looking like an old head on that version. But let's get off into these games, man. I'm excited about these matchups here, man. You know, the Giants game, absolutely excited about that one. But let's get the kind of like the buffer game up out of the way. I mean, I do think it's a pretty interesting matchup, but I think it's going to be a short preview that we got going here. But let's talk about these Dallas Cowboys. They're going to be welcoming the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let me get that proper, to Jerry World. This should be a really interesting matchup. All right, Beard, let's get right into it. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are now 8-6. The Dallas Cowboys got the flip-flop record of 6-8 right now. This is Sunday Night Football's matchup. Kickoff's going to be at 8:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Buccaneers are favored by 4.5 is what I saw earlier. I see it drop down to 3.5 now. Last week, the Buccaneers beat the Chargers in a major way, 40-17 in that game, where they really outscored them in a heavy way in the second half. The Dallas Cowboys ended up beating the brakes off the Carolina Panthers 30-14 in that one. Last meeting between these two teams, the Cowboys beat the Buccaneers 31-14. That was in the wild card round of the 2022 season. It actually happened in 2023. The Cowboys won that game and then went on to lose the divisional round to the 49ers, their kryptonite. The Bucs are coming in on a 4-game winning streak. The competition, though, not all that great. My New York Giants, the Carolina Panthers, the Las Vegas Raiders, 3 teams that are going to be in the top 10 of the draft here, and the Los Angeles Chargers as well. Tampa Bay's defense has allowed a league-low 15 points per game during that 4-game winning streak. And the Bucs, before that, they had a 4-game losing streak. So you're talking about polar opposites in an 8-game span here. 4 games they lost to tough competition, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the 49ers, and the Falcons, who we get to face this Sunday. 3 of those 4 losses were one-score games. These numbers that I saw about the Bucs are very interesting. The Bucs are 8-1 in December and January over the past 2 seasons, 20-5 in December and January, dating back to when Tom Brady was there in 2020. The Cowboys have the 6th best road record. We talked about that on the last show here, but they have the 2nd worst record at home this year. They're 5-2 away. They're 1-6 at home. This is only one. There's only one team with a worse home record. We know who that team is. I'm representing them with this ball cap right here. But the Cowboys are 12-2 at home, particularly versus the Buccaneers. So this matchup normally presents an alley-oop for the Dallas Cowboys to go out here and try and win this game. The Dallas Cowboys, there's a bunch about them this year that is surprising. I've talked about the schedule enough. I think people have gotten that point. But the Cowboys are 3-1 in the NFC East right now. So going up against the division, they have handled business for the most part. CeeDee Lamb being a big factor, maybe the only factor on the offensive side of the ball in that reasoning. He's coming off a big game, and he's going to need another big game. He had 116 yards last week. They targeted him 13 times versus the Panthers. Talked about the 45% of Cooper Rush's targets going to CeeDee Lamb, and he had more than half of the Cowboys' receiving yards on the day. But this comes back to the same game plan that the Dallas Cowboys had last week going in against the Carolina Panthers. You need Rico Dowdle to have another big day. Now, this stat right here, when I was digging through some of the numbers, really surprised me as well. Rico Dowdle's 120 yards away from a 1,000-yard season.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Just had his 3 first. He didn't have a 100-yard game until 3 weeks ago.
Right, and now he's coming off 3 straight 100-yard games. He still only has just 1 rushing touchdown on the year, but he does have 3 receiving touchdowns. The Bucs defense is 11th best against the run. They're allowing 109.2 rushing yards per game. But lately in the season, granted the competition has not been that great, they've been playing even better against the run. In their last 3 games, the Bucs are allowing just 67 rushing yards per game. The Bucs went out there and they held the Chargers to just 32 rushing yards last week. And the Bucs are only allowing 87 rushing yards per game on the road, if you want to not look at it as just the recency bias that we got here in the last couple of games. But really what makes that team the engine of that team for me, and I know they got some players that might be better at their position than this guy, but maybe not this year, it's really about Baker Mayfield, man. Baker Mayfield has just been playing lights out football, and I feel like let's say any given Sunday, to give a pun to the movie, if you got Baker Mayfield out there on the field, he's going to give you a chance to win the game. He has 1 game this season where he went scoreless. He's got 9 games with multiple passing touchdowns. 32 touchdowns for Baker Mayfield, a career high on the year. Just 14 interceptions. Completion percentage over 70 on the year. 4 touchdowns versus the Chargers a week ago. 3 touchdowns versus the Raiders the week before that. He's striding right now, and this is the perfect time. When you look back at the 2020 season with Tampa Bay, they were not the best football team in the NFC throughout the season, but right when it was time to get hot, right before the playoffs, they did become one of those better teams entering the playoffs, likely the hottest team going into the playoffs. And obviously Mike Evans being back in the lineup has helped out Baker Mayfield in a major way here. We talked about this, I want to say like 4 weeks ago. We're like, man, Mike Evans, man, it's looking like this might be the first season where he might not get to 1,000 yards. He's going to get really close here, man. He's coming off a huge game, 9 receptions for 159 yards, 2 touchdowns versus the Chargers. He missed 3 games. You could say 3.5 because he got knocked out halfway through that game. Still has 9 touchdowns on the year. The Bucs, Mike Evans is very similar to A.J. Brown in one regard. If he's on the field, his team is going to likely win the game. The Bucs are 8-3 when Mike Evans has been on the field with them, and they're 8-1 if Mike Evans has 5 targets or more. Mike Evans did not have a 100-yard performance until December. Think about that. He has 2 100-yard performances in his last 3 games. He has 3 touchdowns in his last 3 games. And the real stat here is he needs just 251 yards now to get to 1,000 yards. 3 games left to go, including this game on Sunday. before you get off into your bag about this game, what do you think is going to happen with Mike Evans as far as his 1,000 yards? You think he can get there in 3 games, 251 yards?
He gets there. They got to win games. Then they know if they want to win games, they got to get him the ball. So I think he gets there. And also, it's not only the 1,000 yards too. I think if I'm not mistaken, I read that it's a combination of at least 60 receptions and 1,000 yards in the amount of consecutive years too.
I like that.
He's close to closing in on both of those numbers again. So I think that he gets there.
Yeah, I think he can get there as well.
They need him to get there. I mean, they're in a battle here for the division. I mean, Atlanta's 7-7, so they're right behind them. Atlanta can. Who knows what Atlanta's going to look like with Michael Penix? We're going to talk about that. You know what I'm saying? But this is an interesting matchup. Tampa Bay there's a lot of things about Tampa Bay that's kind of turned around for them. They haven't really been looked at as a running team. Right? Like they haven't been, not even just necessarily as a running team, but as a successful running team. And they've done really well at that. They've rushed for at least 100 yards in 11 of 14 games, and obviously there's a big help there with Bucky Irving. He is a little banged up. I expect him to play as far as from what I was reading. The defense has been playing a lot better too. They have the 8th most sacks in the NFL with 38. So I think if they can find a way to get to Cooper Rush, that'll make things a little bit easier for them. This is a team that scores a lot of points. Tampa Bay is 4th in the league in points scored. A lot of that has to do with when you're throwing 32 touchdowns, you're going to be putting up some points. So they're averaging 28.8 points per game. Dallas is giving up the 3rd most points per game at 27.1. So you got the 4th highest scoring team against the 3rd worst scoring defensive team in the Cowboys. So that's going to be an interesting matchup too. I expect Tampa Bay to put up some points in this game. Dallas's red zone defense continues to struggle and be the worst in the NFL.
It was pretty good last week, though, but you are right. It's been bad.
And we're obviously, even though I put Carolina on a bit of a pedestal, it still was Carolina. So, if we're going to be talking about Tampa Bay's competition, we got to throw the Dallas Cowboys in the mix too, right? I mean, shout out Rico Dotto. We're glad to see you get 300-yard games, but competition was kind of slight in those 3 games, so it's kind of give and take there. But they are the worst red zone defense in the National Football League. They're allowing opponents to score in the red zone at a rate of 73.3%. Tampa Bay, once again, this is like a polar opposite sort of situation, which is obviously leading some people to think that this might be an easy victory for Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has the 6th best scoring red zone offense at 65.5%. And then on the flip side, once again, Dallas is just bad in the red zone on both sides of the ball. 5th worst offensively in the red zone. They're only scoring at 47.5%. So that's like almost 20% lower than what Tampa Bay is scoring in the red zone. So there's a big difference there, obviously. And I talked about Tampa Bay in that run game. They have the 4th most rushing yards per game in the NFL. I don't think a lot of people really think about Tampa Bay as being that high up there. They're dropping 144.4 yards per game on the ground, and they're going up against Dallas, who has continued to still allow a lot of yards on the ground, even though they did well against Chuba Hubbard last week.
Yeah, they did.
But the Tampa Bay is putting that 144.4 against Dallas, who's allowing 156.1 on the ground. So it'll be interesting to see if Tampa Bay can do the things that they're good at and attack Dallas's weaknesses. They should be able to walk away to this game with an easy victory. Although I think Dallas finds a way to put some points up on the board. Cooper Rush, although the completion percentage, as we've been talking about, hasn't been very good, he has found a way to put the ball in the end zone as of late, albeit against competition. So this is 2 teams that have kind of been playing better after playing really bad for a stretch there against, lesser competition, but now they're going to be facing each other. I think Tampa Bay finds a way to win this game, though. I'm going to go with Tampa Bay 30 and Dallas 20.
I like the score, too. I think for Tampa Bay, it's pretty simple. Like, run the rock, like you were saying. I want to say Bucky Irving leads the NFL of all rookies with rushing yards. I think Tyrone Tracy's right behind him. But you got to protect Baker Mayfield. And Micah Parsons has been on a mission. These Micah Parsons numbers are just mind-boggling to me. Micah Parsons returned in Week 9. He had just 1 sack on the year when he returned in Week 9. He has 7.5 sacks in 6 games since returning. So now he has 8.5 on the season. He's the kind of guy that I always talk about. He's going to put fear in the quarterback's eyes. Baker Mayfield is the kind of guy that I think is perfect for this type of matchup, though. And the Bucs offensive line is pretty decent. They've been pretty good this year. So I do think you got to find a way to protect Baker Mayfield. And the Cowboys defense has played really well. A lot of this, going up against Carolina last week, but nonetheless, 20 pressures, 6 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, 10 quarterback hurries, 7 TFLs, and the 2 interceptions last week. You talk about maybe catching some momentum to ride high and come into this game and maybe make this one competitive. I think if the Bucs do what we're accustomed to seeing them doing, especially during this 4-game winning streak, it should be a fairly easy victory for them. Cooper Rush had his first 3 passing touchdowns, first 3 passing touchdowns in the game in his career last week. And like you said, it came against the Carolina Panthers. So this is a very much different team than what we're seeing from the Carolina Panthers. This is a team that's likely going to win the NFC South as well. I think the Bucs come out here and handle business. You said 30-20. I think Cowboys defense is going to be a little bit better than that. I'm going to go 24. I'm going to go 24-20 in favor of the Tampa Baker Buccaneers.
Awthentik likes to ride that point spread there. It's Tampa Bay by 3.5. You're cutting it a little close there with a 4-point victory.
Super close. That is super close right there.
Big shout out to our guy, your guy, everybody's guy, Mr. Door Gunner. A door gunner is like the guy in the helicopter who mans the gun, I think. I'm just going to say.
I don't know why that made me think about Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Ready to
get down.
And apparently he's ready to hunt too. He's ready to hunt some trash pigeons on Sunday.
Okay.
Said Giants are mid-July in Florida levels of booty sweat. F Philly, F the Giants, F the Cowboys. Laugh out loud. Hail to the Commanders. My guy, Door Gunner. Appreciate it. I
love everything about that entire super chat right there, except like the last, 4 letters there. I don't know about the last 4 letters there. Not really my vibe, man. Big shout out to Door Gunner, though, man. That's the fan right there. We appreciate you pulling up, rocking out with us. All right, Beard, you ready to get into this matchup that I think is probably the most interesting? Let's call it a tie. We got Michael Penix, but we also got the Eagles going up against the Commanders. Yeah, 1A, 1B. I'm going to take 1B on this one. We can be 1B, all right, because y'all matchup actually has some implications on it. But let's talk about the New York Giants traveling to Atlanta to take on Michael Penix Jr. and the Atlanta Falcons.
Giants are on the board with 11:16 to go here in the third.
If we were a good team, I would have ran that beat back again for the opening of this segment. But we're a terrible team. So New York Giants sitting at 2-12 right now. The Atlanta Falcons are sitting at 500 at 7-7. Kickoff is Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We got the Falcons in this one favored by 8.5 with the rookie quarterback who has not started a game.
I
thought it was pretty crazy. Yeah. The Giants lost last week to the Ravens. They got their socks blown off 35-14. The Falcons did beat the Raiders 15-9. Last meeting between these two teams, the Falcons beat the New York Giants. It was in 2021. They beat the Giants 17-14. Michael Penix Jr. getting the start for Atlanta. The Giants passed on Michael Penix at 6. I was very high on Michael Penix. The Beard was very high on Michael Penix as well. And the Atlanta Falcons ended up drafting him 8th overall in the 2024 draft, to a lot of people's surprise. A lot of people thought Michael Penix was going to be either a late first rounder or possibly a guy that was going to go at the top of day 2. Kirk Cousins not playing well in his last 5 games. He had an interception in 5 straight games. If you look at Kirk Cousins' statistics over the last 5 games, he has 9 interceptions and just 1 passing touchdown. And that's just not going to get it done. He has 18 touchdowns on the year to 16 interceptions. The 18 touchdowns looks pretty good, but when you're, turning the ball over at that high of a clip, time for you to go to the bench, buddy. And this was a big surprise to me. I thought, this is a guy that got paid $200 million in the offseason. He's making $50,000 or $50 million a year. And the Falcons had no issues with Raheem Morris and putting Kirk Cousins on the bench. The Falcons have won 3 straight games against New York. They benched Cousins after a win and are just 1 game back in the NFC South. And, to me, this is just, it's a bit of a surprise because there's a lot riding for the Atlanta Falcons on this game. They're hoping to God that the Bucs can lose this week and possibly that they can come away with the victory and get things back even in the NFC South. Now, the Giants have not beat the Falcons in Atlanta since 2014. The most recent win, the Giants have not beat Atlanta, period, since 2014. The most recent win in Atlanta was in 2007. The Giants are obviously on a 9-game losing streak here. That's a franchise record. And New York right now, I guess the better portion of what they've done this year is on the road. They're only 2-4 on the road. They've been terrible at home where they have not won a game at all. So for people that are thinking about the Master P no-limit tank type of season that we want to see here, maybe that 2-4 kind of lends us into maybe sneaking away with the victory in this one if the Atlanta Falcons fall asleep at the wheel. Drew Lock is set to get the start in this one, returning from injury. In Drew Lock's only start against the Atlanta Falcons, he had 313 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown as well, 3 total. Tim Boyle played last week. I thought he did a fairly decent job playing in the second half, showed some signs of anticipation, which we really haven't seen from most of the quarterbacks here in the New York Giants quarterback room throughout the year. I would say this, though, that Drew Lock has shown a bit of capabilities to have anticipation, but when he does, the accuracy is not there to go with it.
Is Boyle 2, or is DeVito going to be 2 for this game?
If DeVito is healthy, he'll be 2 in this game. But he is still dealing with the concussion, I believe it is. So if he's healthy, they said he would be 2. If not, it'll be Tim Boyle. Protection. Definitely protection is going to be a thing in this game. The Falcons have had 13 sacks in 3 weeks since the bye. This is almost as impressive as what Micah Parsons has done since coming back from the injury. The Falcons had 13 sacks since the bye, but they had just 10 sacks through their first 11 games. So their pass rush has been getting after the quarterback in a major way the last couple of weeks. For me, the number one question here is, can the Giants get back to finally utilizing Tyrone Tracy? Like, to me, that's the number one thing. It'll make things easier for the quarterback to be able to go out there and succeed, possibly off of play action, start to utilize Tyrone Tracy and maybe Devin Singletary, a guy who's been getting snaps, against my liking, but utilize these guys in the pass attack on short check downs in the screen game as well. We talked about Tyrone Tracy ranking second in the NFL amongst all rookies with 695 rushing yards. But listen, he's really had just 3 good games on the year, and I'll continue to say that I don't think that Tyrone Tracy is truly a hit just yet in this draft. He has scored a touchdown in his past 3 road games, so that's looking up for the New York Giants, and I know a lot of us don't really want to see things looking up right now. Malik Neighbors, I think Malik should be able to start to be able to eat in this game. That's what I would think. Like, although he has had 0 continuity at the quarterback position, we've had 4 quarterbacks start this year, he still has 90 receptions, 901 yards, 4 touchdowns, 140 targets is kind of ridiculous. He is likely going to break Odell Beckham's and Saquon Barkley's single-season rookie record for receptions on Sunday. They're both actually tied. They each had 91 receptions in their rookie season. So Malik Neighbors has 90 right now. If it don't happen on Sunday, I won't be too upset because then that'll most likely mean that the New York Giants didn't win the game. But it'll happen at some point before this season ends. Neighbors also had 10 receptions against the Ravens last week. He's the 4th player in NFL history to have 3 double-digit reception games as a rookie. Odell Beckham, Jalen Waddle, and another surprise, when you think about it, though, it's really not a surprise, Brock Bowers. I think that the Falcons have some weapons. They can do some things in this game. I'm looking forward to seeing Michael Penix go out here, do-rag and all. I think, I'm going to keep it funky with you. I damn near wore a do-rag on the podcast today. Like last minute, I was like, nah, I'm going to save the do-rag for the recap. So if Michael Penix go out here and he fry and he do what he's supposed to do, I'm going to definitely bring the do-rags out. I saw somebody in the chat saying that they can't believe that this is the most excited that they have been throughout the New York Giants season, and it's the excitement comes from seeing an opposing team's quarterback. But I'm just as excited. I cannot wait to see Michael Penix get out here. I think he's going to do a lot of damage. The New York Giants defense is completely banged up. We got a bunch of no-names out there, and I hope they present an avenue for Michael Penix to go out here and win this game because, quite frankly, I don't want to see the New York Giants win any more games this season. You could possibly go from having the number 1 selection overall in the 2025 NFL Draft to falling all the way down to 8 with just 1 victory. So go out here and handle business. Shout out No Limit. Shout out Master P, because we're going to need that tank in full effect.
Listen, I love you. You're my brother, and I love all of the Giants fans in our community, and I want you guys to get out of what we were in, so I hope that you guys can find a way to get Cam Ward or Shador Sanders. Worst case scenario, maybe you get a Dylan Gabriel, but if you do win this game, I won't be upset because obviously it helps my Commanders, So, so either way, it's good for business if you guys win or lose in the book of Awthentik and the Beard. Listen, Tyrone
I'll say
Tracy,
in the book of the Beard.
Book of the Beard.
Yeah, I ain't rooting for y'all, bro. I need these L's.
Well, I know that, but I'm just saying. That's why I said either way, it's good for business. As you know, if you guys lose, it's good for business. If you guys win, it's good for my business.
Beard's business, exactly.
Listen, shout out Michael Penix. He was eating a Costco hot dog when he found out he was going to be starting. I had a Costco hot dog the other day. It did not do me justice. The pizza,
you glizzy gang.
I mean, listen, the buns on the hot dogs be good at Costco, but the hot dog, nah. Stick to the pizza at Costco, Penix, okay? You gotta keep an eye out for Tyrone Tracy's ankle too, because I know he's been a little bit banged up with that ankle. I know he's been limited in practice, but what's interesting here is that the Falcons, they kind of stink. You know, and to be 7-7 is kind of crazy. I guess you have to do a lot of that to, schedule and some.
I got some pushback, but I'll wait.
Some key performances by some people. The one thing they seem to do well on the side of the ball where they do worse is defensively, obviously. They're not too bad at stopping the run, 13th against the run. They're giving up 116.8 yards per game on the ground. But they're tied for the 5th most points allowed per game at 25.4. Lucky for them, they're going up against the New York Giants. The Giants can't score for their life. It's so bad. They're averaging 14 point. We are in week 16, and the Giants are averaging 14.9 points per game. So they're going to have to figure something out to get to the amount of points that Atlanta is allowing this year. Atlanta's offense is, they're 12th in the league, averaging 20.9 points per game. So they're finding ways to get to that magical number of points that they need to score in order to win, obviously. Both of these teams are very similar in turnover differential, which I was a little surprised about because of how many interceptions Kirk Cousins has thrown, especially as of late during this bad stretch in which he's had. Atlanta has the 5th worst turnover differential at -7. New York Giants have the 4th worst turnover differential at -8. Now, here we go. Get into some things that the New York Giants can possibly attack if they want to try and win this game. If they want to try to win this game. Because sometimes when we watch the Giants, it just looks like they're not even trying to win the game. But that's for another story for another day. Atlanta has the 8th worst red zone defense in the NFL. So if the Giants can find a way to get down there, they have an opportunity to score. They're allowing opponents to score, convert in the red zone at 62.8% of the time. They also have the 2nd worst, and this is huge for the Giants because I feel like the Giants, I didn't even write the number down because I was going to go to the beardism and just say I think the Giants have like one of the worst third down offenses in the entire league. But the Falcons are pretty bad defensively on third down. They have the 2nd worst third down defense in the NFL. So it'll be interesting to see if the Giants can find a way to attack these holes in the Falcons, defense, because they're going to have to find a way to score points. They just can't win games like how with the points that they've been scoring, And yeah. I think, like you said, I think Malik Neighbors has an opportunity to have a big game in this matchup. The problem is going to be also, like you said, but Atlanta does have the weapons. The Giants can't let Mooney get behind you because Mooney will make some big plays. And I think that's one of the things I'm most excited to see is that first Michael Penix to Darnell Mooney bomb. And then obviously you got Drake London. Can Michael Penix wake up Kyle Pitts? And then you still have Bijan Robinson. I would expect them to try and push the Bijan narrative a little bit more in this game, kind of ease Penix into things, which can be potentially bad for the Giants, not only because of the inability to stop the run, but the ability to work in some play action. What's interesting is this is what's so crazy to me. Kirk Cousins historically has been one of the best quarterbacks in recent years in play action passing. I want to say a majority of his work in Minnesota came off the play action. Atlanta runs the fewest play action passes in the entire NFL.
That has to do with that injury, though, because, Kirk Cousins was a quarterback throughout the beginning of his career. He was under center all the time. He was one of the last. I remember reading an article about him about a year and a half ago where he was like the last of a dying breed of a guy who takes the majority of his snaps under center, but when you had that Achilles injury, he's lined up in the shotgun a lot more, and they just haven't been able to run a lot of play action this year.
Yeah, so listen, it's interesting because There's some people that think that Kirk is cooked. Like this is the end of it for him. Like, it just kind of makes you think about what Atlanta was thinking. Like 36 years old, coming off the Achilles. Like, it just seems a little bit crazy. I wouldn't say crazy, but it seems a little bit of a reach at this point. Obviously, we're looking in hindsight here, but I think that this game could be interesting. But obviously, all eyes are going to be on Michael Penix.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think with Kirk Cousins, the reason to kind of ignore the Achilles injury is because he was never known as a guy that was really mobile on his feet, right?
Yeah.
So they probably thought that he could bounce back from this injury faster than he really did, but probably overlooked, how quickly you need to get, to your back foot on 3-step, 5-step, 7-step drops and whatnot that Achilles is kind of hurting him on. Now, you talked about some of the Falcons weapons that I did want to talk about and just kind of update people on some of these numbers. Bijan Robinson. So, like, to me, from what I've heard coming out of Atlanta, and they're a team that I don't get to watch a lot, particularly on Sundays, but when I can catch a game, I do. I feel like he's quietly doing a lot of damage this year. When I looked into the numbers here, 1,100 yards on the ground this season. He has 20 attempts in 4 of the past 5 games, and he has 100 yards in 3 of his last 5 games. Like, he's a guy that when you think about Bijan, you think about like fantasy football.
Yeah.
And it's always a bit of a letdown, but got over 1,000 yards this year, and I think he's done that on a team that you said was trying to think what was the word you used for them. You said they were like a shitty team, but you said a particular word.
I can't even remember.
Can't remember the words you used, but I think Atlanta's just like a fair team. They're struggling at the quarterback position. They're 7-7 right now, and they do have weapons across the board. Even a guy like Kyle Pitts, he's putting up a pretty decent season. 40 receptions, 3 touchdowns, 536 yards is not bad. Drake London, he's less than 100 yards away from his first 1,000-yard season as well. He also has 7 touchdowns. Darnell Mooney has 873 yards on the year. I think it'd be real nice if Michael Penix comes out here for 3 games and just kind of lights up the pass attack, get both these guys over 1,000 yards, because this is the thing about Atlanta. I think that, and this is where the Kirk Cousins part made a lot of sense. They brought in Kirk Cousins, in my opinion, to strictly find out what they had in all these draft investments that they already had. And all these guys we named outside of Darnell Mooney being guys that are homegrown talent over there. So, you put a quarterback that is competent back there underneath center, and you can find out if either these guys are holding back the offense or if the quarterback is not good enough, and then you drafted the successor to him in Michael Penix. So I do like the plan. The way that the contract was written up, though, is a little bit interesting because they didn't give themselves the out after this first year. And even after the second year, I think the dead cap hit was pretty high as well. But I do like their weapons. They got a good young core here. I think that it's very rare that you see a young core come up together like this, too, all the way from running back to the wide receivers to the tight end. And Chicago kind of gave up on Darnell Mooney, along with a lot of other people, myself included. I thought that Darnell Mooney was a guy that was like, a little bit overvalued from my standpoint, because when he had that big year, I think it was either over 90 receptions or over 100 receptions with Chicago. I thought he was a dude. And then he came back and he just kind of fell back down to earth. But with all that said, you got now a rookie quarterback now to join this young core of, weapons around him. And I think they're set up perfectly. A lot of people looked at this Michael Penix draft pick at 8th overall and was like, I don't know if I'm feeling that. And I thought it was a perfect plan for them. Yeah, I thought it was extremely smart. Now, for the Giants, you got to put pressure on this rookie quarterback. It's his first start in a regular season game. He looked good in the preseason. And I just think, we don't really necessarily have the personnel right now with Dexter Lawrence on IR. We got injuries to the defense galore. It's just been ridiculous. There's players out there that I don't even know their names. But I will say this about Brian Burns. He's gotten after the quarterback at least enough this season. Got his 8th sack last week. He became the 6th player since 2000 with at least 7.5 sacks in each of his first 6 seasons. And Burns had 2 sacks in the most recent game going up against the Atlanta Falcons in 2023 when he played with the Carolina Panthers. So I think that's going to be important. And even more important than that, the Giants got to get off to a fast start, man. Like these last couple of weeks and just the season in general, the Giants, the amount of 3-and-outs that we have on the offensive side of the ball, the last 2 games started off identical. And I think this speaks volumes to what we have on the offensive side of the ball, but also how Brian Daboll has been coaching the game. I talked about, be calculated with your aggressiveness. And he didn't do that last week. And you look at the last 2 weeks, they're identical. We started off the game, punt, turnover on downs, punt, turnover on downs. And that just goes to show you that Brian Daboll is getting these early situations, 4th and short, and he's pressing the issue just a little bit too much. Like, let the flow of the game come to you instead of trying to dictate I mean, unless you tanking, unless you just truly want to tank and you just don't give a fuck, go out there and do what you got to do. But they're starting off slow, and third down has been terrible. You talked about the Giants being a terrible third down team on offense. 2 of 12 last week versus Baltimore, 5 of 19 the week before against the Saints. I don't know if you saw the clip with Lamar Jackson sitting on the bench when they were entering the fourth quarter.
Piece?
Yeah, they're like, you want a 6-piece? And he's like, nah. Like, what quarterback does that? Like, I'm good. And you know what else I thought was interesting? A lot of people be like, oh, you got to play till the 60 minutes, final whistle. Lamar Jackson was like, the game's over.
Yeah.
It's over at that point. And I just love that kind of confidence from the quarterback position. We'll see if Michael Penix kind of has some of that for him, or within his game that he can do some of those things because when you saw Michael Penix at Washington, he was absolutely a confident quarterback. He felt like he could squeeze the ball into any window. And those are some of the things that I love about Michael Penix, like the poise in the pocket, the rocket arm that Michael Penix has, maybe the best arm talent that we saw in this draft, the way that he can anticipate those throws and the honey hole shots in between cover 2, sometimes even cover 3. I remember going over some of the tape in the summer and looking at Michael Penix games where he's literally converting in a hole shot on cover 3, which is just ridiculous. He's not afraid to push the ball down the field. I'm looking forward to this first game of his. The Falcons offensive coordinator, Zach Robinson, he was asked about if he would open up the playbook for Michael Penix on Sunday, and this is what he said. I thought this was really funny. He said, sure, yeah, absolutely. Like, just confused at the beginning. Then he said, obviously, Mike's got some different skill sets that you can activate. Whatever he's done at Washington and what we've seen on the practice field will definitely activate that this week. I'm looking forward to this matchup, man. It has nothing to do with the New York Giants. It's all about the narrative surrounding the do-rag and Michael Penix. Go out here and get that victory, man, so that the New York Giants can get this #1 overall selection and maybe cover up some of the blemishes from not drafting Michael Penix or J.J. McCarthy at the 6th overall selection in the previous draft. This is the last quarterback from the first round that's healthy that's going to start. J.J. McCarthy's the only guy in that first round that has not taken a snap and will not take a snap this season. So I'm very excited about it. I think the Atlanta Falcons win this one, and I think they're going to score a little bit more points than they did with Kirk Cousins at the quarterback position. I'm going to say in Michael Penix's first start, he's going to get 2 touchdowns. He might make a mistake, maybe an interception, maybe a fumble, something like that in the pocket. I think he puts up 2 touchdowns, and I think the Falcons are going to win this one 24-14.
Activate the do-rag, 24-14. Operation Do-Rag is a success in his first start. As much as I would like them to lose, at least he can get a good start in before he has to face my Commanders, and then he can kind of have like an average one. Because this one's really important, because you even more so than losing this game and keeping your draft stock is Penix performing as good as he possibly can against the New York Giants to just stick it to Shane.
Yeah.
Because this is the final. This is the one. This is the do-rag that broke the camel's back.
So
okay?
let me ask you this, as you're about to get into that before you say your score. Do you think that if Michael Penix goes out here and puts up let's just say a really good performance, let's not say a great, 4 touchdown, nothing crazy
so
like that.
250, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, let's say he puts up something like that. How much influence you think is going to have on John Mara's decision to bring back Brian Dable and Joe Shane? Do you think it'll influence it at all? Let's go with 3 different levels of it. Not at all, it'll influence it all the way, or just influence it a little bit? It'll
influence it all the way. Because the thing is that it's going to be a topic of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be the world is so different now with social media and constant sports news, whether it's on your TV, your phone, your computer, right? There's no way that Michael Penix has a performance even before he even gets on the field. The pre-game, there's gonna be talks about the New York. I can see the reel now. Like, New York Giants thought they had their guy in Daniel Jones, who's no longer on the team. He's the last guy to throw a touchdown. Or he's the last guy to do something crazy for the New York Giants. I was reading the stat. He's not even on the team anymore. But Daniel Jones, who's no longer on the team. The Giants had an opportunity to draft now starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons, Michael Penix. And like, those sort of narratives are going to be going before he even steps on the field. So if he steps on the field and performs well, and it's going to be amplified. They're going to be the questions are going to be coming out like just right out the gate, as soon as the game ends, people are going to be like, I can see it now, thumbnails and titles and everything. Did the Giants drop the ball by not drafting Penix? Penix makes Giants regret for letting him slip.
Some nice headlines.
You know what I'm saying? Like, stuff like that is a sort of situation that you're going to be in. And the thing is let's say Xavier McKinney wasn't having a Pro Bowl year. Let's say Saquon Barkley didn't have an opportunity to break the rookie rushing record. Let's say,
not the rookie, single season.
Yeah, and let's say Bo Nix, came out looking, horrible, right?
Bo Nix I don't think they would have drafted him. No team would have drafted him.
I know, but let's just say,
I like the other narrative. I like it.
Let's say like all that stuff didn't happen, and Michael Penix went out here and did it, then it wouldn't have as much influence. But this is just the icing, the cherry. We talked about this the other day. This is the banana split. The cherries are all been dropped. This is the last one before the sprinkles come down, and I put a spoon in it and hand it to you. So if that happens, I think it has a huge impact, especially if it's like in another embarrassing loss and the Giants don't win another game. Because I think you made a good point, too, that I don't necessarily think that there's a decision made one way or another yet. And we talked a little bit about this on Tuesday. But I do think that this is a case where if it goes the wrong way, it could play a big part in the role for Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen moving forward.
Yeah, I like what you mentioned with Xavier McKinney, going to Green Bay, balling out, leading the NFL in interceptions. Saquon Barkley leading the league in rushing, leading the league from scrimmage yards, just absolutely going crazy. They paid Daniel Jones, and it didn't work out. They thought that they could put a weapon around him, bolster up the offensive line, and it all failed for them. But the last thing I'll say about this game is, when it comes to the universe in general, I always tell you all this, that I believe in like a little bit of balance. Man, if all of those things go in the wrong direction for the New York Giants, it must be fate. It really must be fate to be able to prove that we've been making the wrong decisions, not only at positions of, need like the running back and the safety, but most importantly, the quarterback position.
Yeah, so I'm pretty close to your score. I have 22-12 Falcons.
I like it. Got a couple of super chats, and then we'll get off into your matchup here.
Big shout out to Door Gunner. I knew it. Like, I had a gut feeling. Says he was a gunner on the AC-130U in the Air Force. I don't know if that's a helicopter or a plane, but shout out Door Gunner.
I just imagine like that's what I'm imagining right there.
So thank you for your service,
hold
sir.
on. Let me run it back one time. Yeah, them joints right there.
I should just laugh and you do this. Shout out Door Gunner. Thank you for your service. We appreciate you. Big shout out to Door Gunner again with the $2 super chat. Says Awthentik Daboll going to pull a Lovie Smith in Houston.
Hey, if we get our CJ Stroud that way, I might be for it, but damn. Yo, I was seeing something on it was either like Instagram or Twitter or one of these reels or something like that about all these side effects and complications from people that have been taking Awthentik, like their like eyeballs are sinking into their skull and all kind of shit. Listen, when you look at Brian Daboll now, in comparison to what he used to look like big Brian Daboll versus, Awthentik Brian Daboll, the old Brian Daboll, I swear, bro, he looks like a Saturday Night Live sketch, like somebody's like playing him. Like it doesn't even look like the same guy, man. So, yeah, I mean, hey, if we pull this Lovie Smith move though, and we get, maybe our CJ Stroud is our Cam Ward or whatever, maybe we can get the better quarterback out of it. I'm all for it, Door Gunner.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah, big shout out Door Gunner though for supporting the channel.
And big shout out to our guy, your guy, everybody's guy, Chris Peace with the $1.99 super chat. Says, my prediction, 400 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 38-14 Falcons.
I'd love to see it. That's not Chris Peace. That's Chris War right there. Chris wants some smoke right now. That's
looks like crazy. Chris Peace and Door Gunner have been on the same AC-130U.
He said, and Door Gunner sent in another super chat. He said, look it up.
Okay. Yeah, this is a mammoth. This is not a helicopter. The Lockheed, I think it's Lockheed. AC-130 is a heavily armed, long-endurance ground attack variant of the C-130 Hercules transport aircraft. Damn. It carries a wide array of ground attack weapons.
Top speed of 299. Say it.
299 miles per hour?
Mile per hour.
Listen, Top Gun, man. That's my jam. That's my movie. This is not Top Gun. That's like Battleship sort of thing. Like that thing is dropping, some major weight on the sea. So shout out Door Gunner.
Real deal. I still didn't get a chance to watch the reboot of Top Gun. I should put that on.
It was good. It was good.
It was good.
It was good.
I remember Kyle Pizzle was geeking off that joint. He loved that movie.
Top Gun is one of my favorite jams. So shout out Door Gunner. We appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, I definitely got to check that out. All right, well, let's talk about this 1A matchup in the NFC East here. The Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts red hot right now, traveling down here to the DMV to take on the Washington Commanders. All right, man, this is a big matchup here, and we did get a chance to see this matchup earlier in the year. The Philadelphia Eagles are 12-2 right now. The Washington Commanders are 9-5. Kickoff is Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The over-under is 45.5. I got the Eagles favored by 3.5. Is that what we got down there?
Yep, 3.5.
3.5. I like that. That seems pretty accurate by Vegas here. Last week, the Commanders barely beat the New Orleans Saints 20-19. Came down to the last play of the game. The Philadelphia Eagles really handled the Pittsburgh Steelers and showed that they were in a different class. They beat them 27-13. Last meeting, the Eagles beat the Commanders 26-18 in the first matchup earlier this year. The Eagles are on a 10-game winning streak right now. That's a franchise record. Their last loss was to the Bucs on September 29th. Philly won the last 3 matchups versus Washington, which it's interesting because Washington for a while there was playing Philly extremely well throughout the past couple of seasons, but just not being able to really get over that hump in all those games. If Washington wins on Sunday, they are in the playoffs. It's that simple. So I think that there's a little bit of extra, emphasis on this game to go out there and let's handle business right now. The Beard has been talking about, everything is right in front of you. Go out there and get this W against a team that, who knows, if you get in the playoffs, you might have to play them again. So this could be a playoff matchup that we're seeing right here as well. The Eagles have already clinched a playoff berth, and the NFC East will now have a different division winner again. The NFC East has not had a repeat division winner all the way back since 2004. Now, last week, Jalen Hurts was the guy. He was the reason why his team won. He quieted the doubters with a 335-yard, 3-touchdown performance versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was 25 of 32 for 292 touchdowns. He also had a touchdown on the ground and 45 yards. Hurts has 14 rushing touchdowns on the season. He's one away from tying the NFL record for most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback, which would be 15. And he holds that record already along with Josh Allen. They both got to 15 in 2023. Hurts is coming into this game a little bit banged up with a broken finger on his non-throwing hand. So I do think he's going to need a little bit of support in this game. So the Eagles need to get back to using Saquon Barkley the way that they used him during this 10-game winning streak that they are on. He had his knee and his shoulder banged up this past week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I do think that this is going to be a test for him. It eerily reminds me of 2022 because the Giants got out to a 7-2 record early on in 2022, and then Saquon started to deal with a shoulder injury after, I want to say it was around week 6, week 7 or something like that, and he tried to play through it, but you did see the drop-off and the decline in his play during that time. So I think that this will be another test for Saquon Barkley to see if he's past the injury narrative that has been around Saquon Barkley for so long, and if he can tough it out and have a big game here against the Washington Commanders. Barkley leads the league in rushing right now with 1,688 yards. He leads the league in scrimmage yards as well with 1,964. 11 rushing touchdowns on the year. Barkley's coming off his second worst performance of the season, though, this past week, which was against the Pittsburgh Steelers. A really good defense. 19 rushing attempts for 65 yards. 3.4 yards per carry was his second worst of the season. But last game against the Washington Commanders, Barkley just lit y'all up. 146 yards on the ground, 52 yards in the passing game. I'd look for a little bit of that again in this game. I think it's going to be tough for Washington. Last week, the Eagles held the Steelers to 56 yards rushing, and y'all know I'm a big fan of Brian Robinson Jr. I think that if you can get him going, that Washington Commanders offense really is just a different kind of beast. 128 yards passing from the Pittsburgh Steelers this past week, too, and they held them to 3 of 10 on third down. Both quarterbacks going to need help from their wide receiver ones in this game. A.J. Brown, I thought this was kind of interesting. It was a career high for him last week with the 11 receptions. He has never had 11 receptions in his career. And A.J. Brown and Terry McLaurin are the only wide receivers in the league that have 5 or more games of 100 yards this season. Terry McLaurin's 31 yards away from 1,000 yards, which will be his 5th consecutive. I'm truly looking forward to see which wide receiver can support their quarterback better. And this is going to be a great matchup of two mobile quarterbacks in Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts. And whichever, Jalen, I think, goes out there and plays better, likely is going to have his team win. But I do think that the Eagles have a bit of an advantage against the Commanders when we talk about from the defensive side of the ball. But nonetheless, I think that the Commanders are going to be a little bit riled up for this matchup. And I think they're going to come in, trying to play with a little bit of extra oomph and trying to get that W and solidify their spot in the playoffs come the end of Week 16.
I do think that this is an interesting matchup. Like the first matchup, I wish we would have won that game because it would have made things a lot easier than facing them right now. But that was like right in the beginning, middle-ish of their win streak. And I started thinking to myself, I'm like, how much better are the Eagles now than they were in that game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd say pretty significantly better. The interesting matchups, you talked about the wide receiver one. So it's like Marshawn Lattimore. This is why we got Marshawn Lattimore.
Mm-hmm.
How's he going to play against, against A.J. Brown? And then obviously Terry McLaurin going against the young corners of the Philadelphia Eagles. And they've been absolutely phenomenal. This is going to be such a tough game. It's at home. It's going to be cold. It's going to be sunny, but it's going to be cold. Pretty sure it's going to be the coldest game Jaden Daniels has ever played in his entire life.
Life or NFL career?
College and NFL. I don't know about high school, but I know college and NFL. There's a lot of things that Washington does well, obviously. But it would be silly to sit up here and tell you and not agree with the facts that are on the table. Philadelphia Eagles are a better team than Washington Commanders. There's no doubt about it. There's no debate. There's no question. Does that mean that the Commanders can't beat the Eagles? Absolutely not. I think the Commanders have the potion needed in order to defeat the Eagles. The problem is, can they put all the ingredients to the potion in the bottle and successfully plant it into the Eagles locker room? That is the question, because one of the things about Washington throughout this year is there's been times where, especially against the better competition, there have been times where they have struggled to do all of the things well together in one game from beginning to end. They've had good first halves, really bad second halves. They've had really good defensive showings, piss poor offensively. They've had amazing offensive games, but just gave up so many big plays defensively. They've shot themselves in the foot on multiple games this year with penalties. So these are the things that they have to be able to figure out in order to walk away with a victory. There's a lot of things here that they're close in, too. Red zone offense, Washington, 7th in the league, 60.3%. Philadelphia, 11th in the league, 58.2% offensively. Third down, Washington is 6th, Philadelphia is 7th. Pass defense, Philadelphia has the best pass defense in the league when it comes to yardage allowed, 173.4 per game. Washington is 4th. They're only allowing 189.6 per game. Rush defense, this is where things get a little dicey. Philadelphia's 7th best rushing defense in the league, only allowing 102.2 yards per game. Washington, on the other hand, tied for 8th worst. Now, there's a possibility we get Jonathan Allen back for this game. Possibility. I think they're going to be able to do more in the box against this Philadelphia Eagles team this time than they were able to do last time because of the addition to Marshawn Lattimore. So I think that can kind of change the game plan a little bit. Can it be successful? That's still yet to be seen. This is a test, obviously. Scoring defense, Philadelphia has the number 1 scoring defense in the National Football League. They're only allowing opponents to score a little bit more than the New York Giants at 17.6 points per game. Washington, on the other hand, 16th. They're giving up 22.5 points per game. That's kind of gone up a little bit recently. Now, third down defense. Philadelphia has the 3rd best third down defense. And I talk about this so much over the course of the last 4 weeks or so. Washington has to be successful on 1st and 2nd down to give those third down opportunities a little bit easier and not these 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 9s that they have been very unsuccessful at converting for most of the season, as opposed to those less 3rd and goes. Washington has the 11th worst third down defense at 40.9%. And these are two teams that you're probably going to see go for it on fourth down. Washington has one of the best fourth down conversion rates in the entire league. Philadelphia, we all know Nick Sirianni. He loves to go for it on fourth down. So that's going to be an interesting sort of chess match situation with these fourth downs. Jake Elliott has had some games where he struggled kicking the ball for the Eagles. Washington's obviously deciding between Zane Gonzalez and Greg Joseph which one of those guys is going to be the kicker for this game. So those are a couple of other things too. Rushing offense, you got two of the best here. Philadelphia Eagles, as we all know by now, number one rushing team in the league, 186.2 yards per game. Washington comes in number 3 at 155.5 rushing yards per game. Both of these teams can put points up on the board if need be. Washington scores the 6th most points in the NFL. This is the thing that's so crazy to me is all this Cliff Kingsbury narrative. There's some of this going around in Washington where, they're still not sold on Cliff Kingsbury, which is nonsense. If the turnarounds, I know we got Jaden Daniels. I know it, right? But even with Jaden Daniels, the turnaround that this offense has had from top to bottom has been so dramatic that you have to give Cliff Kingsbury some credit too. Like I said, they're scoring 6th most points in the league, 28.3. Philadelphia, 8th most points in the league at 26.4. So this should potentially be a really good matchup. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter about execution. And there's some things that we're going to have to execute, and I'm going to talk about those things. I was given an assignment by my co-host, my brother here.
Yes, you
Mr.
were.
Awthentik. So I think it's time that we bring in the sponsored intro, and we'll just get right to the roadmap before we move any further.
All right, let's get it.
Yeah, you're getting on the freeway. What? No, turn right. Get out of the lane. No. Okay, get procedure. Just get out the lane.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to buckle up and hit the road here. First stop on the roadmap, I've been talking about shooting ourselves in the foots. No more cheddar bobbing. I'm going to need less than 5 penalties from the Washington Commanders in this game. Up next is the Awthentik pit stop. This is where I stop and I pick up Awthentik on the way on the road trip, okay? Brian Robinson, 100 or more rushing yards in this game. Jaden Daniels, 35 or more rushing yards in this game. And then everybody else combined, I need them to give us 35 yards too. So that's going to give us a total of at least 170 yards rushing on the ground if each one of those players hold down their responsibilities given to them by Awthentik and the Beard. Up next, Saquon Barkley, Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, all 3 of them, respectively, under 100 yards. Each one of them got to be under a hundo. Okay?
I like that one.
Up next, outscore Philadelphia in the first quarter. Not 3-0. It's got to be at least 10-0 or 10-point differential in the first quarter. Mm-hmm. Outscore Philly in the first quarter. They're the worst scoring first quarter team in the NFL. Win the turnover battle. Okay? Up next, you have to score on 80% of Philly's non-scoring drives. So every drive that Philadelphia doesn't score on, you need to score in response on 80% of those opportunity drives. And then last but certainly not least, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to, get to the end of the road. You got to win a time of possession. You got to win a third down. And this is a little bit of a flip-flop because I already said turnover battle. Plus minus 50% red zone percentage, meaning you got to hold them under 50% and you have to be over 50%. If you do those things, Washington Commanders, you can win. And let me tell you this. I was damn close to picking the Philadelphia Eagles to win this game. I really was.
You're still going to pick them, right?
Listen. We've made it this far. I'm not turning back. I'm gonna just tell you guys right now.
I like it, bro. I like it.
We're on our way to the playoffs. There's not a chance. This isn't a 4-12 Commanders. Okay, this is 9-5. New everything. Okay, you guys might get a chance to get there, New York Giants. I can't pick the Washington Commanders to lose another game. So they're either going to win the rest of the games in the Super Bowl, or I'm going to be wrong a few damn times along the way. Okay? So I'm going Washington Commanders 27, Philadelphia Eagles 25.
27-25. Do you remember how many wins you picked the Commanders to have at the beginning of the year?
10.
10. And y'all are at 9 now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It sounds like y'all going to go 1-2 during this next stretch.
Very possible. Listen, there's a lot of things that can happen. We can go 1-2, we can go 0-3, or we can go 3-0.
You can't go 0-3. You can't go 0-3. You got some
we
teams
can't.
on your heels right now. You can't.
We'll lose. We won't make the playoffs.
Can't do it. Can't
do it. Won't do it. Shout out Mike Singletary.
He can't do it. I think you brought up a lot of good points about similarities from these teams, but the one difference is something I spoke about on the last show that we did when we did the recap on Tuesday. Eagles defense, man. Number one. Opponents, yards per game, yards per play, yards per pass, time of possession. That defense has been really good. And this stat right here, I think, is going to be something that might continue, and the trend might stay the same. The Eagles have not allowed a team to score over 20 points at all during this 10-game winning streak. I think they get to their 11th win, which is going to be kind of crazy, man. If the Eagles get to 11 straight, that team is going to be backing into the playoffs. Not backing into the playoffs. They're going to be strutting into the playoffs, extremely hot. I think the keys for the Eagles here to get this victory, allow Jaden Daniels to do what he does in the beginning of this game, but contain him. Mm-hmm. Focus on stopping that run right off the bat, and focus on implementing your run right off the bat. Do not allow Saquon Barkley to go to first quarter with 2 and 3 carries like we've seen all too often this year. I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles in this one. They were favored by 3.5.
Yeah.
Man, it's going to be a good game, man. I'm going to say the Philadelphia Eagles cover that. I'm going to go – I think they get to 30, man. I'm going to go 30. I'm going to go 30-19.
That doesn't sound like a good game.
It'll be one of those ones where, like, y'all got a shot late and the Eagles push it to a 2-score lead late and, and y'all put y'all out of y'all misery. I think it'll be that kind of vibe. But it won't surprise me if the Commanders win.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, though, also, if, like, what you said comes true. Because this is one of those interesting matchups where there could be a very close game or one of these teams could pull away. I think it's just good. It's going to be interesting to see this game right out the gate, how things start. Yeah. For both teams, it's important to come out the gate and perform well. I think you made a great point about Philadelphia establishing the trenches, because for times, a period in this season when Washington has struggled, it's been because of the other team dominated the trenches early and often.
Yeah, I think, the one thing we didn't speak on, too, is the explosive plays. Washington, if they want a chance, they're going to need explosive plays. And it's going to have to happen with Terry McLaurin as well, because you look at the first matchup between these two teams, I want to say Terry McLaurin only had one catch for 8-9 yards or something like that. It was bad. So, and A.J. Brown didn't have a big game either. So I think it's just going to be whichever quarterback can get their wide receiver one involved in this a little bit more, get those explosive plays going. I do think Philadelphia has the advantage in the running back room, but it's not as drastic as people might think it is with the way that the statistics look this year. So won't surprise me either way, but I got to go with the red-hot Philadelphia Eagles here.
I understand.
All right, let's get off into this last matchup on Thursday Night Football, and then we'll get the folks up out of here one time. All right, let's set this one up here. The Denver Broncos, maybe when we look at the New York Jets, they're the most surprising team in the NFL. I think the Denver Broncos, on the flip side, are probably the second most surprising team in the league. I had no idea that this would be a 9-win team. Like, not even at this point, not at the end of the season. I thought they were going to be a 5-6-win team. But here they are at 9-5. They have a better record than the team they're going up against tonight in the Los Angeles Chargers, who are sitting at 8-6. Kickoff's going to be here in about 10 minutes on Amazon Prime. I got the Chargers favored by 2.5 in this one. Mm-hmm. Last week, the Broncos beat the Colts 31-13, and it's a very interesting game because this was the one where the running back for the Colts, I don't even know, I can't remember his name, Jonathan Taylor, he gets a big 50-yard run. He's about to score, and he just drops the ball. And I looked at that replay a bunch of times, man. It's almost like he's that close to crossing the plane. He kind of puts the ball behind him a little bit. Yeah. Just literally, a game of inches. That's what they say. And that, from that point on, that game spiraled out of control, and the Colts completely just got blown out in that one. The Chargers lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 40-17. So both these teams are coming off blowout losses, really. Last meeting, the Chargers beat the Broncos 23-16. That was earlier this year. 4 of the past 5 games between the Broncos and the Chargers have been decided by just one score, so it's not going to surprise me if this game is tight. The Chargers have been in a lot of tight games this year already. The Broncos, like I said, that record is so surprising. They're going to finish with a record over 500 for the first time since 2016. And a win tonight, Broncos are going to the playoffs. I can't believe it. I really cannot believe it. It makes me want to root for them. They haven't been to the playoffs in 8 years. It's the longest stretch of a Super Bowl winning team to not get back to the playoffs after the Super Bowl, because that was the last time that they were in the playoffs was during that Super Bowl run with Peyton Manning. Damn. Now, the Chargers are 8-11 on Thursday Night Football, which really makes me start to think about like Justin Herbert, primetime, bright lights. If his team is down late in this game, I will start to get worried. Bo Nix is coming off a terrible game last week with 3 interceptions, but he rallied his team to a victory.
3 touchdowns.
The Broncos had just 7 points on the first 9 possessions, and then they went out there and put up 31 points in the game. Los Angeles has scored 17 points in each of its past 3 games. How is that going to be sustainable for you? You're not going to win a lot of games.
J.K. Dobbins going down has destroyed that offense.
Yeah, it really has. And the Chargers allowed the Bucs to score 27 points in the second half last week. So I know there's going to be a little bit of an emphasis from Harbaugh in this game about finishing, going out there, getting in the second half, making the proper adjustments, and finishing this game. In my heart of hearts, I think the Chargers are a better team than the Broncos, but the Broncos just continue to surprise week in and week out. Even when it's ugly and they got to beat a team like the Colts the way that they did this past week, I'm going to hear what you got to say on this one, and maybe you can convince me one way or the other. How you feel about this matchup?
This is a tough matchup. It's an interesting one because this is, once again, 2 teams where the potential is there for both of these teams to put up 30 points, right? But the potential is there for both of these teams to put up 17 points. Yeah. Both of these teams have pretty damn good defenses. Both of these teams have 2 of the best young defenders in the NFL. So it's like, which team comes out here? Justin Herbert is a little bit banged up too. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
I've been wavering back and forth on this game. The Broncos do not, they're going to be without Jaleel McLaughlin in this game too. I need Ladd McConkey to go ham. I'm not going to lie.
Ladd McConkey low-key is having a fantastic season. I think he's over 800 yards already. And I continuously said during when we were like covering prospects and pre-draft stuff that I was not a guy that was like hype about Ladd McConkey. He had like 35 receptions at Georgia, and I'm just like, he just doesn't do anything that jumps off the screen. Like when you look at Malik Neighbors, you can see the explosivity. But Ladd McConkey is more of a guy who fundamentals, the fundamentals are a very big part of his game. So it's really good to see him, going out there and putting pen to paper this season, in a season where a lot of wide receivers are doing, a lot of rookie wide receivers. Don't nobody say that rookie wide receiver like you say that rookie wide receiver either. But a lot of them are doing damage this year, man. It's been a good year for wide receivers, where in the past, I looked at the draft from the Kyler Murray draft, 2019, when we drafted Daniel Jones. And let me tell you something that I'm starting to realize real quick before we close this out. First-round wide receivers and quarterbacks are so much more difficult to assess the prospect than any other position.
Yeah.
Hollywood Brown was a first-round pick that year in 2019. He's like one of the better wide receivers that wasn't in like the top 12 or whatever. But like you look at the offensive lineman, the defensive lineman, any other position that was drafted in that draft, cornerback in the first round, they're damn near all hits except Daniel Jones, and then it was Dwayne Haskins, and then some wide receivers, man. It's like, I don't understand why the NFL can assess the trenches so much better.
Too, right? Jalen Reagor, that was a Jalen Reagor.
I can't remember if it was Reagor or not. I can't remember. Reagor, didn't they draft Reagor over Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, the Eagles did.
Yeah, that's not the Daniel Jones draft. I think that's the year after.
That's the year after.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's just interesting. Like I just don't get it. I really don't.
I mean, think about all the wide receivers that were drafted in that draft. That's Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown, D.K. Metcalf.
Was A.J. Brown first round?
I don't think so. I don't think any of them were first rounders.
D.K. fell. Yup.
I remember watching that and then seeing D.K. Metcalf. I'm like, all this dude had to do is take his shirt off, and I would have taken him in the first round. Are you kidding me? What are we doing here? The guy looks like a damn transformer. I don't understand.
DK could work security at the club. I mean, DK is,
Look, Lad McConkey is like I hate to say this, right? Lad McConkey, I might be tripping, but Lad McConkey reminds me like he should be playing wide receiver for the Los Angeles Rams.
Nah, you're not tripping at all. I mean,
like he reminds me of a Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. Like
did you see Will Compton's all-white team? Did you see that? So it's his second year he did it, the all Caucasian team. And he was like, look, there are some people that, there are racial boundaries that get crossed around a little bit here, but we're taking Puka Nacua. So he had Puka Nacua on the all Caucasian team. He had Lad McConkey, I believe he had Lad McConkey. Cooper DeJean was on that, CMC, a few others. It's a hilarious clip. I'll tag you in it when we get off.
But I got a feeling this is going to be more of a defensive game. I feel like I could be wrong. If it wasn't Thursday night, I might flip it, right? But the Beard's Thursday night meter has been pretty spot on for, I'd say, 75% of the season.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go 19-17 Chargers.
19-17. That's a good score. That's really a good score. I'm gonna start the week off a little bit froggy here, after a stellar performance on the parlay last week. 15-1. The over-under was not as good though. I was like 4-10 or something crazy like that. I'm going to start this one off with an upset. I mean, the Chargers were favored, right? 2.5?
Yep, 2.5.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm going to go with an upset here. I'm going to take the Broncos for a victory here, and I think they'll win it pretty close like how you're saying. I'm going to go 26-20 in favor of the Broncos. I see Kevin Napiarf is asking if Ladd is playing or not. I'm not 100% sure, but he is coming into this week banged up.
His ass better be playing. I got him in my starting lineups in the fantasy football playoffs.
I think he was trending towards playing But Joshua Palmer, Quentin Johnston are guys to keep your eyes on if Lad McConkey doesn't go. But, yeah, that's how I see it. I see the Broncos. But, yeah, definitely a vibe today, man. I think this is going to be one of the more exciting Sundays of the year. Although my team is just completely out of the mix, this NFC matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders is going to be one that I'm going to have to go back and rewatch because it's going to be at the same time as our game. But I'm looking forward to it. And most importantly, I'm looking extremely forward to seeing Michael Penix go out here and just try to handle business. I'd love to show up, either on the Giant Overreaction on Monday with a do-rag on or on a Tuesday recap show with a do-rag on, or maybe go back-to-back streams with a do-rag on for 2 days.
Do-rag the rest of the season.
Yeah, I got a fresh do-rag upstairs, even though I'm not wearing that hairstyle no more.
Can you get a New York Giants do-rag? In time?
Nah, hell no. I'm going black. This is Falcons. He's not a Giant.
I'm just saying
he's not a Giant,
awesome
bro.
If you wore a Giant do-rag.
No, we're going blackout do-rag, bro. I've never owned a do-rag that was not black. Them other do-rags don't get you the waves like a black do-rag.
No, most people who wear non-black do-rags are people who shouldn't be wearing do-rags.
Like honest. Eminem or something.
Yeah.
Benzino.
Malibu's most wanted.
Yeah, them
White
kind of
do-rags
vibes.
And do-rag matching the color of their FUBU velour.
A lot of youngins rock do-rags now, though. I was out just last night and seen a couple dudes rocking the do-rag, just like stylish, man. I guess it's back in style again.
They'll be wearing a ninja mask like it's a do-rag.
The ninja mask, man. Pooh Shiesty, man. Pooh Shiesty.
When I go to the gas station, it has the old picture of it on the door. It says no ninja mask allowed.
Yeah, you can't wear those. You're up to no good if you're wearing one of those. But let's get them out of here before kickoff, man. Any last words before we roll up out of here?
Nah, man. Just I got just a couple, literally a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Go Irish.
That's it.
Go Irish, baby. Tomorrow night, 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You will see your boy on Twitter, TV on 5,000 volume, decked out.
Are you more
Notre
invested
Dame
in
gear.
the Irish this week than you are the Commanders? I'll take it. I'll take that as a yeah.
Nah, it's equally. Let me tell you, it's a higher intensity for this game for Notre Dame than it is for the Commanders.
Yeah, I mean it's more on the line right now.
Yeah,
you guys,
exactly.
as the Commanders, can lose the game. That's why I said that. But y'all definitely check out the kickoff. Kickoff's about to happen right now. I don't even know what's going on in fantasy these days. My team is absolute garbage. But best of luck to all of y'all that are still, in the playoffs, bidding for a championship trophy here. But y'all know how we end every stream over here at Awthentik and the Beard. Keep raising that bar. Keep living those dreams because the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. And a life without dreams is a life in black and white. Rest in peace to the podcast GOAT, Combat Jack. And that's a wrap. Y'all enjoy y'all Thursday night football. Make sure you pull back up on Sunday morning for the parlay at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'll be on Bleacher Report recapping the New York Giants game. Hopefully Michael Penix goes crazy. Y'all be good, man. Enjoy y'all Thursday night football. We'll catch up with y'all on the flip side. Peace.